Marriage is like IT security. If you're not paranoid, you're not paying attention. And after 12 years of marriage to Rachel Harper, I'd developed the kind of paranoia that would make a CIA operative proud. My name is David Harper, and I used to think I was living the American dream. 2-story house in Oak Ridge, decent job managing IT security for a mid-sized company, 2 beautiful daughters, and a wife who looked like she stepped off a magazine cover. The kind of life that makes other men jealous at neighborhood barbecues. I should have known it was too good to be true. The first crack in my perfect world appeared on a Tuesday morning in October. Rachel was rushing around the kitchen, her blonde hair perfectly styled, despite claiming she was running late for work. She grabbed her gym bag from the counter, and that's when I saw it, a second phone sliding out of the side pocket. "Honey, you dropped something," I said, reaching for the device. Rachel's face went white. Actually white, like someone had drained all the blood from her cheeks. "Oh, that's just my work phone," she said quickly, snatching it away. "New company policy. We all have to carry them now. Funny thing about being in IT security, you develop a nose for bullshit." And Rachel's explanation smelled like a landfill in August. "Since when does HR need a separate work phone?" I asked, keeping my voice casual while my mind started cataloging all the little inconsistencies I'd been ignoring. The late nights, the sudden interest in the gym, the way she'd started putting her regular phone face down during dinner. "Since the new privacy regulations came in, look, I'm really late, Dave. Can we talk about this later?" She kissed my cheek, a quick, distracted peck, and rushed out the door. Through the kitchen window, I watched her climb into her silver Lexus, and I noticed she was talking on that second phone before she even backed out of the driveway. That's when I knew. In my gut, in my bones, in every instinct I'd developed from years of hunting down security breaches and digital deception, I knew my wife was lying to me. The rest of the day crawled by like a Windows 95 computer trying to load a modern website. I sat in my office, staring at network security reports, but my mind kept circling back to that phone. During my lunch break, I called Rachel's office. "Hi, this is Dave Harper. Is my wife available?" "Oh, hi, Mr. Harper. Actually, Rachel left about an hour ago. She said she had a dentist appointment." Dentist appointment. Right. I'd been managing our family calendar for 12 years, and there was no dentist appointment scheduled. I drove home early, telling my boss I had a family emergency, which wasn't exactly a lie. I was pretty sure my family was about to become very emergency-like. Rachel's car wasn't in the driveway, but that didn't stop me from doing something I never thought I'd do. I searched our bedroom like a detective. I felt dirty, invasive, like I was violating some sacred trust. But the trust had already been violated, hadn't it? I found the evidence in her jewelry box, tucked behind a velvet ring holder. A receipt from Nordstrom for lingerie I'd never seen her wear. Expensive stuff, the kind of lingerie that wasn't meant for a husband who worked in IT and wore the same 3 polo shirts in rotation. My hands were shaking as I photographed the receipt with my phone. The date was last Friday, when Rachel had claimed she was having drinks with her sister Maya. Maya, Rachel's best friend since college. The kind of woman who treated marriage like a competitive sport and seemed to take personal pleasure in other people's relationship drama. If anyone knew what Rachel was up to, it would be Maya. I was still standing in our bedroom, holding that receipt, when I heard Rachel's car in the driveway. I quickly put everything back and went downstairs, trying to look like I'd been working on my laptop the whole time. "Hey, how was the dentist?" I asked when she walked in. "Fine. Just a cleaning." She didn't look at me when she said it, just headed straight for the stairs. "I'm going to take a shower. How's Maya doing? You mentioned you might grab drinks with her this week." Rachel froze on the 3rd step. "Maya? Oh, she's fine. Busy with work stuff." Another lie. I could see it in the way her shoulders tensed, the slight pause before she answered. My wife had become a stranger, and I was just now realizing how long she'd been practicing her deception. That night, after Rachel fell asleep, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling and listening to her breathe. 12 years of marriage. 2 daughters who thought their parents were happy. A mortgage, shared credit cards, joint bank accounts. Our entire lives were intertwined like computer cables, and someone was about to take a pair of scissors to the whole mess. I thought about confronting her directly, but something held me back. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the IT guy in me who needed to gather all the evidence before making accusations. Or maybe I just wasn't ready to hear her confirm what I already knew. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to find out exactly what Rachel was hiding, and then I was going to decide what to do about it. I started with the phone records. Being married to an IT security specialist while having an affair is like trying to rob a bank while the head of security watches through surveillance cameras. Rachel had no idea what kind of digital trail she was leaving, and I had no idea how much I didn't want to follow it. Our phone plan was in my name, which meant I had access to all the call logs and text message records. I pulled up the data during my lunch break, sitting in my car in the company parking lot like some kind of corporate private investigator. The number showed up dozens of times over the past 3 months, always during work hours, often late at night after I'd gone to bed. I ran a reverse lookup and got a name that made my stomach drop: Travis Morrow. I knew that name. Travis was Rachel's co-worker in the HR department, the kind of guy who wore expensive suits and drove a black Range Rover like he was starring in his own action movie. He'd been to a few company parties, and I remembered thinking he was exactly the type of man who made other men feel inadequate just by existing. Tall, athletic, perfect teeth, and the kind of confidence that came from never having been rejected by anything or anyone in his entire charmed life. The kind of man who probably thought IT guys like me were invisible. Turns out, he was right. I spent the rest of the afternoon digging deeper, using skills I'd developed for tracking security breaches to investigate my own marriage. Rachel's credit card statements showed charges at restaurants I'd never been to, hotels in the city during times she'd claimed to be working late, and purchases at stores that specialized in the kind of clothes she definitely wasn't wearing at home. The evidence was overwhelming, but I needed more. I needed proof that would stand up in divorce court, because I was starting to realize that's where this was heading. That evening, Rachel announced she was going to a work dinner with some clients. "Which clients?" I asked, not looking up from helping our 13-year-old daughter Ellie with her math homework. "Just some people from the regional office." "Boring stuff." "What restaurant?" "I'm not sure yet. Maya's picking the place." Another lie. Maya lived 40 miles away and worked for a completely different company, but I just nodded and said, "Have fun." After Rachel left, I made a decision that crossed a line I'd never thought I'd cross. I activated the family tracking app on our phones, the one we'd installed to keep track of the kids, and started following my wife's location. She wasn't at any restaurant. She was at the Marriott downtown, and her phone had been stationary for over an hour. I called Maya. "Dave, is everything okay?" Maya sounded genuinely surprised to hear from me, which told me everything I needed to know about Rachel's supposed girls' night out. "I was just wondering what time you and Rachel might be done with dinner." I wanted to know when to expect her home. There was a long pause. "Dinner? Dave, I'm at home with the kids. I haven't seen Rachel in weeks." My hands were gripping the phone so tightly I was surprised it didn't crack. "Oh, I must have misunderstood. She said she was having dinner with work people and that you were helping pick the restaurant." Another pause, longer this time. When Maya spoke again, her voice was different, careful, like she was walking through a minefield. "Dave, I think you and I need to have a conversation." We met at a coffee shop the next day. Maya looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her wedding ring and avoiding eye contact. She ordered a large coffee and drank half of it before she finally started talking. "I don't know how much you know," she began, "but I can't keep pretending I don't see what's happening." "What's happening, Maya?" She sighed. "Rachel's been having an affair with Travis from her office. It's been going on for months. Hearing it out loud was like getting punched in the stomach, even though I'd already known. How long have you known? Since the beginning. She tells me everything, Dave, always has. I've been trying to talk her out of it, but she says... Maya trailed off. She says what? She says you're boring, that you've let yourself go, that you don't appreciate her anymore. She says Travis makes her feel alive again. I stared at my coffee, watching the steam rise from the surface. Boring. After 12 years of marriage, 2 kids, a mortgage, and building a life together, I'd become boring. There's more, Maya continued. She's been talking about leaving you. She and Travis have been making plans. What kind of plans? She wants to take the girls and move in with him. She thinks she can get the house in the divorce, and Travis has been telling her she deserves better than what she has with you. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too warm. I could hear conversations from other tables, the hiss of the espresso machine, the clink of cups and saucers, but it all seemed to be happening underwater. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Maya finally looked at me directly. Because I like you, Dave. You're a good man and you don't deserve this. And because Rachel's making a huge mistake, but she's too caught up in the excitement to see it. What do you mean? Travis is married too. His wife doesn't know, but he's not planning to leave her. He's been stringing Rachel along, making promises he has no intention of keeping. Rachel thinks she's going to get her fairy tale ending, but she's about to destroy her family for a man who sees her as a temporary distraction. I thanked Maya and drove home in a daze. The house felt different now, like I was seeing it through new eyes. Every family photo on the walls, every piece of furniture we'd picked out together, every memory embedded in these rooms. It all felt like evidence of a life that had been built on quicksand. That night, I made another decision. I wasn't going to confront Rachel yet. I wasn't going to file for divorce or kick her out or do any of the dramatic things that men in my situation usually did. I was going to be smart about this, strategic. I was going to gather every piece of evidence I could find, document every lie, and build a case that would protect my daughters and secure our future. Because if Rachel thought I was boring, she was about to learn just how interesting a motivated IT guy could be. The thing about small towns like Oak Ridge is that everyone knows everyone else's business, except when it matters most. I'd been walking around for months thinking I was living a normal life, while half the town apparently knew my wife was sleeping with her coworker. I discovered this delightful fact when I ran into Jim Peterson at the grocery store. Jim worked in maintenance at Rachel's company, and he had the kind of personality that made him privy to all the office gossip. "Hey, Dave," he said, pushing his cart up to mine in the cereal aisle. "How you holding up, buddy?" "Fine," I said, confused by the sympathetic tone in his voice. Why wouldn't I be? Jim's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: surprise, embarrassment, and something that looked like panic. "Oh, I just thought, with everything that's been going on." "What's been going on, Jim?" He looked around the grocery store like he was checking for surveillance cameras. "You really don't know." "Know what?" Jim sighed and moved closer, lowering his voice. "Dave, everyone at the office knows about Rachel and Travis. They've been carrying on for months. Hell, they got caught making out in the supply closet last week. I thought for sure someone would have told you by now." The box of cereal in my hands suddenly felt like it weighed 50 pounds. "Everyone knows?" "I'm sorry, man. I really thought you knew. The way they've been acting, it's like they don't even care who sees them anymore." I finished my shopping in a fog, mechanically putting items in my cart while my mind processed this new information. It wasn't just that Rachel was having an affair. It was that she was being so obvious about it that she'd become the subject of office gossip. That evening, I decided to test a theory. During dinner, I casually mentioned that I'd run into Jim Peterson. "Oh?" Rachel said, not looking up from her salad. "What did he have to say?" "Not much. Just small talk. He seemed surprised to see me, though. Like he expected me to be somewhere else." Rachel's fork paused halfway to her mouth. That's weird. Yeah, it was, almost like he felt sorry for me about something. Now Rachel looked up. Sorry for you? Why would he feel sorry for you? I shrugged. I have no idea. Maybe he knows something I don't. The look that crossed Rachel's face was pure panic, quickly masked by irritation. Jim Peterson is an idiot. I wouldn't read too much into anything he says. After dinner, I heard Rachel on the phone in our bedroom, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear. Damage control. The next day, I decided to visit Rachel's office. I'd done it plenty of times before, bringing her forgotten lunch, dropping off dry cleaning, the normal things husbands do. But this time, I was paying attention to things I'd previously ignored. The receptionist, Jennifer, greeted me with a smile that seemed forced. Hi, Mr. Harper. Rachel's in a meeting right now. That's okay. I'll wait. I sat in the lobby and watched the office dynamics play out. Employees walked by, and I started noticing the looks, some sympathetic, some awkward, some curious. I was the clueless husband, the last to know, the object of pity and whispered conversations. Travis walked through the lobby while I was waiting. He was exactly as I remembered. Tall, confident, wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. He saw me and nodded politely, but there was something in his expression that I hadn't noticed before. Smugness. Like he was enjoying a private joke at my expense. When Rachel finally emerged from her meeting, she looked genuinely surprised to see me. Dave? What are you doing here? Brought you lunch, I said, holding up a bag from her favorite sandwich shop. Thought you might be hungry. That's sweet, thank you. But she didn't look pleased. She looked nervous, and she kept glancing around the office like she was afraid of who might be watching. We walked to her office, and I noticed how quiet the conversations became as we passed. The kind of quiet that happens when people are talking about you and suddenly you appear. Is everything okay? I asked once we were in her office with the door closed. You seem tense. Just busy. Lots of projects right now. I nodded and looked around her office, noting details I'd never paid attention to before. Fresh flowers on her desk, the kind of arrangement that looked expensive and personal, not like something she'd buy for herself. A new photo frame, turned at an angle where I couldn't see the picture inside. Well, I'll let you get back to work, I said. See you at home. I kissed her cheek and left, but instead of going straight to the parking garage, I took a detour past the break room. Through the glass wall, I could see a group of employees clustered around the coffee machine, and their conversation stopped abruptly when they saw me. One of them, a woman I recognized from company parties, gave me a sympathetic smile and a little wave. The kind of wave you give someone who's going through a difficult time. That's when I realized the full scope of what was happening. This wasn't just an affair. It was a public humiliation. Rachel and Travis had been so careless, so arrogant, that they'd turned my marriage into office entertainment. I drove home with a new understanding of my situation. I wasn't just dealing with a cheating wife. I was dealing with a woman who had so little respect for me and our marriage that she was willing to make our private business into public spectacle. But two could play that game. That evening I started making phone calls to old friends, neighbors, people in our social circle. I didn't mention the affair directly. I didn't have to. I just asked casual questions about whether they'd seen Rachel around town, mentioned that she'd been working late a lot, wondered if anyone had noticed her at restaurants or events when she was supposed to be somewhere else. The responses were telling. Awkward pauses, careful words, the verbal equivalent of people looking at their shoes. Everyone knew or suspected or had seen something they didn't want to tell me about directly. By the end of the week, I had a clear picture of the situation. Rachel and Travis had been conducting their affair like they were the stars of their own romantic drama, meeting at public places, taking weekend trips, acting like a couple at work events when they thought I wouldn't hear about it. They'd been treating me like I was invisible, irrelevant, too boring and oblivious to notice what was happening right in front of me. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The confrontation I'd been dreading came on a Saturday morning in November. I was in the garage pretending to organize tools while actually planning my next move when I heard voices in the kitchen. Rachel's voice and another one I recognized. Travis was in my house. I crept closer to the door that connected the garage to the kitchen and listened. They were talking in low voices, but not low enough. "He doesn't suspect anything," Rachel was saying. "Dave's completely clueless. He's so wrapped up in his computers and his work that he barely notices I exist." "Are you sure? He seemed pretty alert when I saw him at your office." "Trust me, I know my husband. He's the most unobservant person on the planet. He still thinks I'm working late and having girls' nights with Maya." Travis laughed. "Poor bastard. How did you end up married to such a loser?" "I was young and stupid. I thought stability was enough. But God, Travis, being with you has reminded me what I've been missing. Real passion, real excitement. Dave's idea of romance is buying me flowers from the grocery store. Well, you won't have to put up with it much longer. My lawyer says once we have everything documented, the divorce should be straightforward. You'll get the house, custody of the kids, and enough alimony to live comfortably." "What about your wife?" "What about her? She'll be fine. She's got her own money." I stood there in my garage, surrounded by the tools and equipment I'd used to build and maintain the life Rachel was so casually planning to destroy, and felt something shift inside me. The hurt and betrayal I'd been carrying for weeks crystallized into something harder and more focused. Anger. Pure, cold, calculating anger. I waited until I heard the front door close and Travis's Range Rover pull out of the driveway. Then I walked into the kitchen, where Rachel was cleaning up coffee cups. "Who was that?" I asked. "Who was who?" "The person who just left." I heard voices. Rachel didn't miss a beat. "Oh, that was Maya. She stopped by to drop off a book she borrowed." Another lie, delivered with the same casual confidence she'd been using for months. But this time, I didn't let it slide. "Funny," I said. It sounded like a man's voice to me. Rachel's hand stilled on the coffee cup she was washing. "You must have been hearing things." It was definitely Maya. "Rachel, I know Travis was here." The cup slipped from her hands and shattered in the sink. She turned to face me, and for the first time in months, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I know about the affair, Rachel. I know about the hotels, the restaurants, the secret phone. I know about all of it." She stared at me for a long moment, and I watched her face go through a series of calculations. Denial, defiance, and finally, something that looked almost like relief. "How long have you known?" "Long enough. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" Rachel straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin, and suddenly she looked like a stranger. "What do you want me to say, Dave? That I'm sorry? That it was a mistake?" "That would be a start." "Well, I'm not sorry. And it wasn't a mistake. It was the best thing that's happened to me in years." The words hit me like physical blows, but I kept my voice steady. "What about our marriage? What about the girls? What about them? You think this house, this life, this boring routine we've fallen into, you think that's enough? You think that's all I deserve? I think it's what we built together. I think it's what we promised each other." Rachel laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Promises? Dave, when's the last time you looked at me, really looked at me? When's the last time you did something spontaneous, or romantic, or exciting? When's the last time you made me feel like a woman instead of just a wife and mother? So this is my fault? It's nobody's fault. It's just life. People grow apart. People change. I've changed. And you haven't." I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and realized she was right about one thing. She had changed. The woman I'd married, The woman I'd fallen in love with wouldn't have been capable of this kind of cruelty. "So what happens now?" I asked. "Now we get divorced, like adults. We split everything fairly, we work out custody arrangements for the girls, and we both move on with our lives." "And Travis? What's his role in this adult arrangement?" Rachel's cheeks flushed. "Travis and I are in love, Dave. Real love. The kind of love that makes you feel alive. You wouldn't understand. Try me. He makes me feel beautiful, desired, important. When I'm with him, I remember who I used to be before I became just another suburban housewife." "And his wife? Does she factor into this great love story?" "His marriage was over long before I came along. They're just going through the motions, like we were." I nodded slowly, processing this information. "So you've got it all figured out. Divorce me, move in with Travis, live happily ever after." "Something like that." "There's just one problem with your plan, Rachel." "What's that?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. It was a recording app, and it had been running for the entire conversation. I've been documenting everything. The phone records, the credit card statements, the hotel receipts, your conversation with Travis this morning. All of it. Rachel's face went white. "You recorded us?" "I recorded you. In my own house, which is completely legal, by the way." "You bastard." "Maybe. But I'm a bastard who's been doing his homework. Did you know that adultery is still grounds for divorce in this state? Did you know that it can affect alimony and custody arrangements? Did you know that Travis's wife might be very interested to learn about his extracurricular activities?" Rachel was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. "You wouldn't. Try me." We stood there in our kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of our broken marriage, and I saw the exact moment when Rachel realized that boring, predictable Dave Harper had just become a very different kind of problem. The war was about to begin. What Rachel didn't know was that I'd already fired the first shot. While she was upstairs packing a bag and making angry phone calls to Travis, I was in my home office executing a plan I'd been developing for weeks. See, the thing about being an IT security specialist is that you learn to think several moves ahead, to anticipate problems before they become disasters. Rachel thought she held all the cards, but she'd forgotten that I had access to every digital aspect of our shared life. I started with the joint credit cards. Not to steal or hide money, that would be illegal and stupid, but to protect our assets from further damage. I called each company and explained that I suspected fraudulent activity on our accounts. They immediately froze the cards and began investigations into the suspicious charges. The hotel bills, the expensive dinners, the shopping sprees, all of it would now require explanation and documentation. Next, I secured our joint bank accounts. Again, nothing illegal. I simply moved the money into accounts that required both signatures for withdrawals. Rachel would still have access to her own money, but she wouldn't be able to drain our shared resources to fund her new life with Travis. Then I made a call to Travis's wife. Her name was Susan, and she worked as a nurse at the regional hospital. I'd met her a few times at company events, and she'd always seemed like a decent person, the kind of woman who deserved better than what she was getting. "Susan? This is Dave Harper, Rachel's husband. I think you and I need to talk." The conversation was awkward but necessary. Susan had suspected something was wrong. Travis had been working late more often, had become secretive about his phone, had started paying more attention to his appearance. But like me, she'd been hoping she was wrong. "How long?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "At least 3 months that I can prove. Probably longer." There was a long silence. Then, "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to protect my daughters and my future." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet, but thank you for telling me. I needed to hear it from someone else before I could believe it was real." After I hung up, I sat in my office and listened to Rachel moving around upstairs. Drawers slamming, closet doors banging, the sound of someone whose carefully constructed world was falling apart. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Rachel called me crying. She says you've lost your mind. What's going on? I called her back. I found out about the affair. Confronted her about it. She's not handling it well. Dave, I'm so sorry. I tried to talk her out of it. I know you did. But Maya, I need you to understand something. Rachel made her choice, and now she has to live with the consequences. I'm not going to make this easy for her. What do you mean? I mean, I'm going to fight for my daughters, my house, and my future. And if that means exposing every lie she's told and every promise she's broken, that's what I'll do. Maya was quiet for a moment. She's not going to like that. She should have thought about that before she decided to destroy our family. That evening, Rachel came downstairs with a suitcase. She looked like she'd been crying, but her jaw was set with determination. I'm staying at a hotel tonight, she announced. I'll come back tomorrow to get more of my things. Take your time, I said. But Rachel? The locks will be changed tomorrow afternoon. She stared at me. You can't lock me out of my own house. It's not your house anymore. It's the house where my daughters live, and I'm not going to let you use it as a staging area for your affair. This is insane, Dave. We can handle this like civilized people. Civilized people don't have affairs. Civilized people don't plan to steal their children and half their spouse's assets. Civilized people don't turn their marriage into office gossip. Rachel's face flushed. What's that supposed to mean? It means everyone knows, Rachel. Everyone at your office, everyone in our neighborhood, everyone in our social circle. You and Travis have been so obvious, so careless, that you've made our private business into public entertainment. That's not true. Jim Peterson knows. Jennifer at your office knows. The neighbors know. Hell, the mailman probably knows. You've been parading around town with your boyfriend like you're starring in your own soap opera. Rachel's composure finally cracked. I never meant for it to happen this way. But it did happen this way. And now everyone gets to watch what comes next. She left without another word, and I heard her car pull out of the driveway. Then I called my daughters into the living room. Ellie and Sophie were 13 and 9, old enough to sense that something was wrong, but young enough to still believe that their parents could fix anything. I looked at their faces, so trusting, so innocent, and felt my resolve harden. Girls, your mom and I are having some problems, I began. She's going to be staying somewhere else for a while. Are you getting divorced? Ellie asked. She was the older one, the one who picked up on adult tensions and worried about things beyond her years. I don't know yet. Maybe. But I want you to understand that whatever happens between your mom and me, it has nothing to do with you. We both love you more than anything in the world. Is it because of Mom's boyfriend? Sophie asked. The question hit me like a punch to the gut. What do you know about Mom's boyfriend? She's been talking to someone on the phone a lot. Someone who makes her laugh differently than when she talks to you. Kids notice everything. They see patterns and changes that adults think they're hiding. My 9-year-old daughter had figured out what I'd been denying for months. Yes, I said finally. It's because of Mom's boyfriend. That night, after the girls were in bed, I sat in my living room and looked around at the life Rachel was so eager to leave behind. Family photos on the mantel, school artwork on the refrigerator, the comfortable furniture we'd chosen together, the memories embedded in every corner of the house. She was right about one thing. I had gotten comfortable. I'd stopped trying to impress her, stopped planning romantic surprises, stopped seeing her as anything other than my wife and the mother of my children. I'd taken our marriage for granted, but that didn't excuse what she'd done. That didn't justify the lies, the betrayal, the public humiliation. That didn't make it okay to plan the destruction of our family without giving me a chance to fight for what we'd built together. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Travis. We need to talk. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, No, we don't. Rachel says you're being unreasonable. We can work this out like adults. Adults don't sleep with other people's wives. Look, I know you're upset, but this doesn't have to get ugly. I laughed out loud at that. Too late. It's already ugly. You made sure of that when you decided to conduct your affair like a public performance. My phone rang. Travis was calling. I answered on the third ring. What? Dave, listen to me. Rachel and I are in love. This isn't some fling or midlife crisis. We want to be together, and we want to do this the right way. The right way would have been for her to ask for a divorce before she started sleeping with you. You're right. We should have handled it differently, but we can't change that now. What we can do is move forward in a way that's best for everyone. Everyone? What about your wife, Travis? Is this what's best for her? There was a pause. Susan and I. That's complicated. I'll bet it is. Let me guess. You told Rachel you were going to leave your wife, but you never actually planned to do it. It's not that simple. It never is it? You get to have your cake and eat it too, while the rest of us deal with the consequences. Dave, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You wanted to have an affair with my wife, and you thought I was too stupid or too weak to do anything about it. You thought you could just waltz into my life, take whatever you wanted, and leave me to clean up the mess. That's not... But here's what you didn't count on, Travis. I'm not going away quietly. I'm not going to make this easy for you. And I'm definitely not going to let you destroy my family without a fight. I hung up and turned off my phone. Tomorrow, the real war would begin. The next 3 weeks were like living in a chess game where every move had consequences that rippled through every aspect of our lives. Rachel moved in with Travis temporarily, which solved one problem for me. I didn't have to pretend anymore, but created others. The girls were confused and hurt, asking questions I couldn't answer without making their mother look like the villain she'd become. But Rachel and Travis had made a crucial mistake. They'd assumed I would handle the situation the way most betrayed husbands do, with anger, drama, and ultimately resignation. They thought I'd fight for a while, make some noise, and then settle for whatever scraps they were willing to throw me. They were wrong. I'd spent those 3 weeks building a case that would not only protect my interests, but expose their affair in a way that would have lasting consequences for both of them. Because here's what they'd forgotten. I wasn't just a boring IT guy. I was a boring IT guy with a security clearance, a reputation for thoroughness, and a very good understanding of how to document digital evidence. The first domino fell on a Tuesday morning when Travis got called into his boss's office. It seems someone had sent an anonymous email to the company's HR director, not Rachel's department, but the corporate office, detailing the inappropriate relationship between 2 employees, complete with documentation of company resources being used for personal matters, company computers for personal emails, company credit cards for hotel rooms during business trips that had no business purpose, company time being used for romantic liaisons instead of actual work. Travis was suspended pending investigation. Rachel was transferred to a different department and put on probation. The second domino fell that afternoon when Susan's divorce attorney served Travis with papers. She was asking for everything: the house, the cars, alimony, and a detailed accounting of all marital assets, including any money spent on extramarital activities. The third domino fell on Thursday when Rachel discovered that our joint accounts had been frozen pending a forensic audit of all transactions from the past year. Every hotel bill, every restaurant charge, every purchase that couldn't be accounted for would have to be explained under oath. But the final domino, the one that would bring their entire house of cards crashing down, fell on Friday evening. I was at home with the girls, helping Sophie with a school project, when my phone rang. It was Rachel, and she sounded panicked. "Dave, what have you done?" "I've protected my family and my future." "What did you expect me to do?" "Travis lost his job. His wife is taking everything. The company is investigating both of us." "Actions have consequences, Rachel. You and Travis decided to conduct your affair like it was a public relations campaign. Now you get to deal with the publicity. This is insane. You're destroying people's lives." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm just making sure the truth comes to light." What do you want? Money? The house? What will it take for you to call off your dogs? I looked at my daughters, both of them pretending to focus on homework, while obviously listening to every word of the conversation, and felt that cold anger crystallize into something harder and more permanent. I want you to understand something, Rachel. You made a choice. You chose to have an affair. You chose to lie to me for months. You chose to make our private business into public gossip. You chose to plan the destruction of our family without giving me any say in the matter. Dave, I'm not finished. You want to know what I want? I want you to live with the consequences of your choices. I want you to understand that actions have prices and the bill has come due. What does that mean? It means I'm filing for divorce on grounds of adultery. It means I'm asking for full custody of the girls based on your abandonment of the family home and your involvement in a relationship that has made you the subject of workplace discipline. It means I'm asking for the house, the cars, and alimony based on your infidelity and the financial damage you've caused to our marriage. You can't do that. I can, and I am. My lawyer filed the papers this afternoon. There was a long silence. When Rachel spoke again, her voice was small and defeated. What about Travis? What about him? You're both adults. You made your choices. Now you get to see how much your great love affair is worth when it's not a secret anymore. He says he needs time to figure things out, with his wife, his job, everything. I'll bet he does. Dave, please. I know I made mistakes, but we can work this out. We can go to counseling, No, Rachel, we can't. You didn't make mistakes. You made choices. Deliberate, calculated choices over a period of months. You chose Travis over our marriage. You chose excitement over stability. You chose to destroy our family rather than work on our problems. I never wanted to destroy our family. Then you should have thought about that before you started sleeping with your coworker. I hung up and looked at my daughters. Ellie was staring at me with wide eyes, and Sophie had tears running down her cheeks. Is Mommy coming home? Sophie asked. I knelt down beside her and wiped away her tears. I don't know, sweetheart. But whatever happens, you and Ellie will always have a home here with me. What about her boyfriend? What about him? Is he going to be our new daddy? I looked at my 9-year-old daughter, so innocent, so trusting, so hurt by circumstances she couldn't understand, and made her a promise. No one is ever going to replace me as your daddy. No matter what happens with Mommy, no matter who she chooses to be with, I will always be your father, and I will always take care of you. That night, after the girls were in bed, I sat in my home office and reviewed the documentation I'd assembled over the past month. Phone records, credit card statements, hotel receipts, email printouts, photographs, witness statements, recorded conversations, everything I needed to prove that Rachel had not only committed adultery, but had done so in a way that was reckless, public, and damaging to our family's reputation and financial stability. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Rachel is devastated. Travis broke up with her. He says he can't handle the drama. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "That's not my problem anymore. She has nowhere to go, Dave. She lost her job, she can't afford a lawyer, and now Travis has abandoned her. She made her choices. She's still the mother of your children. Yes, she is. And when she's ready to be a mother again instead of a woman having a midlife crisis, we can discuss visitation arrangements." I turned off my phone and poured myself a glass of whiskey. The good stuff, the bottle Rachel had given me for our 10th anniversary back when she still pretended to love me. Outside, I could hear the wind picking up, rattling the windows and shaking the trees. A storm was coming, but for the first time in months, I wasn't worried about it. I had weathered the worst storm of my life, and I was still standing. My daughters were safe, my house was secure, and my future, whatever it held, was mine to determine. Rachel had wanted excitement, passion, and drama. She'd gotten all three, just not in the way she'd expected. As for Travis, he'd learned that other people's wives come with other people's problems, and some problems are more expensive than others. They'd both thought they were smarter than the boring IT guy who couldn't see what was happening in his own marriage. They'd thought they could play games with my life and walk away without consequences. They were wrong about that too. The whiskey burned going down, but it was a good burn. The burn of victory, of justice served, of a man who'd been underestimated finally showing his true strength. Tomorrow, I would start building a new life for myself and my daughters. A life based on honesty, respect, and the understanding that some things, like family, like loyalty, like keeping your promises, are worth fighting for. Rachel and Travis had chosen to tear down what we'd built together. But from the ashes of their betrayal, I was going to build something better, something stronger, something that would last. The storm outside was getting worse, but inside my house, my daughter's home, everything was finally calm. Calm, 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 calm.